Africa. My question is about big data and the Ebola outbreak. Could the panel members, in however way they feel relevant because of their presentations, comment on the potential uses of big data during the outbreak and after it? Thank you.
I will comment after Peter's question and others. Okay. So the fact is that there have been numerous discussions about the relevance of mobile phone data, which really is the communication mechanism in much of Africa, and its ability to track location, track movement, track where the spread of the disease is going to go. And this is an area where reticence risk has come into play. There's one mobile phone company that has responded by providing data. They're a mature phone company, a mature mobile company that has the apparatus to think through policy. The other mobile phone companies don't have the same expertise in place. All they know is that there are risks if they supply data in terms of regulatory risk, and they've been very reluctant to supply that data, and there have not been the mechanisms for the balancing to help them reach a decision that is beneficial and protective. So the fact is the lack of frameworks, I think, has had negative impacts in terms of that issue and others in Africa. And Peter?
Yesterday, Jacob Koonstam read the Declaration of Mauritius, and it inter alia referred to the fact that the question of identifiability or anonymization is getting increasingly complicated. Internet of Things and the big data, we need to assume it's all personal data. Now, I've heard a lot of references to balancing in provisions, and at some point it looked like there is always a way to get out of the maze. But I'd like to submit that, of course, the outcome of the balancing could very well be that there is a no-go area, like Scott showed, a reaction leads to bad chemicals, so to speak. My question now is, do you have some rules of thumb to simplify this analysis? Some things which are usually good except when something arises, or usually bad except. So and then as a distinction, is it healthy to distinguish between knowledge discovery and applying this to individuals? What kind of arrangement do you need to have to make this go well?
So I see the stage being approached, and I would think that, and I just quickly might turn to Scott and Brendan, but the black and white issues, Peter, are easy. You don't actually need tools for the things that are obviously right and the things that are obviously wrong. It's useful to have tools, but you don't need it. What we're suggesting is that tools need to be built that help organizations based on the context of the organization, because there have to be industry-specific tools in some cases based on a common framework. But that there needs to be tools for those things that are not purely black and are purely gray. When Scott approached me and said, "Is this a project you think would be fun to do?" It was the gray issues he was worried about. The black and white issues are pretty easy.
Peter, I would just add that, again, I would look at where progress has been made in other areas. I think the answers are complex. Quite frankly, putting in place an expectation that organizations even attempt such a process, I think, would be an improvement, because I'm not sure. I had originally a slide that showed a little boy mixing chemicals, because there are days where I feel like children are making some of these decisions. I think setting an expectation that there is a process that should be followed, and then being able to scrutinize whether there was one, whether it was done perfectly or not, but the fact that there is one, I think, would be beneficial. And Eduardo, back to your question, I think it's really important. I have a strong opinion. My biggest concern about big data is what Jakob mentioned yesterday, predestination. The lack of access. We are sitting here and taking data sets. Let's say we have a legal basis to process the two data sets. We mix them together and there is a reaction, a change and a reaction. That becomes a tertiary data set. And when you start adding tertiary data sets that are not provided by the data subject, ultimately you can get to Jakob's point of predestination that may be completely inaccurate or where harm can come from. There is no computer scientist that is going to tell me, and I will believe them, that there isn't a mechanism for us to code the data so that when there is a need for access, correction, or exercising rights, we need to be able to forensically understand where that change or reaction came from, where that predestination or that mistake, that harm, ultimately emanated from. We need to do a lot more around industry standards as we start this process and concept of big data. It cannot be the way that it's being done today. It needs to have more controls put around it, ultimately for the protection and upholding the rights of all of us as individuals.
Okay, I think we're being told that enough discussion of big data. Please thank the panel with me.
Thank you, plenary 5 speakers. Just a few announcements before we go off for coffee. The photographs for the closed session are available at the registration desk, so please collect your copy if you were there. The photographs for the open session will be distributed later on today. Just a note that the rum cocktail is no longer where it was planned to be at Sugar Island. It's now at the fountain, which is if you go out of these doors onto the deck and turn right, it's near the pool. And also the time has been changed to 6:30 instead of 6 this evening. Also, those people who have not yet informed the registration staff when the departure dates are, please do so because they're closing up on confirmations for airport transfers. If any presenters do not want their slides up on the website later, please inform Yusuf, who you handed your presentations to, that you would not like your slides up on the database. Also a reminder to please hand in your headsets at the end of the conference. Enjoy your coffee.